This topic, which has been chosen by the esteemed organizations, is one of the very favorite topic of mine, and especially when you move away little fundamentals. I am not saying that fundamentals are not required, but since last 3 years have passed, now we have to talk something beyond fundamentals now. So when we talk beyond fundamentals, believe me, I mean, so interesting issues come up. We find as if questions are more and answers are less. What a fantastic piece of legislation the government has come out with. I salute to the gentleman or the group of gentlemen whosoever has drafted this law, where I mean, in just crisp 74 sections only, the entire worldly affairs have been roped into. You imagine any situation, and there is already a solution to rope you in. Part A, B, Part C, D of the definition of Benami transaction are drafted in such a manner that something which is even in the remotest sense, which could be ascribed as Benami from spiritual angle, from personal angle, from social angle, from legal angle, from accounting angle, from any angle, if something could be ascribed to be Benami, already it has been taken care of. So, friends, not taking much of your time because there is a lot to discuss with you. Time is less, though we can have more time, but you have many things to learn. So therefore, I will be trying to be as crisp as possible and as straightforward, so that we can have more time for the question answer sessions also. And according to my understanding, that is why I requested to the organizers that my deliberation time should not be more than 1 hour. So if I am starting at say 11:13, so before 12:15 I have to finish, because concentration span is this much only. Anyways, let us begin the tour of Benami law. So something I would be showing to you that apart from learning and understanding Benami law, the time has come when we should understand the various facets of laws dealing with economic offenses. Why I am talking about this? Because you may be wondering that even if I am not doing practice of other areas, why should I know about this? Because friends, now there is going to be a strong interplay between various laws. I will deal with you all these issues, that how the things are interconnected beyond our imaginations, what we used to think so far. Every channel, every barrier has been crossed. Kindly see this photograph in front of you. Some chimpanzees were attached by the, not wildlife authorities, enforcement directorate, right? So chimpanzees, attachment by enforcement directorate, how is that possible? I mean, this is a question which came to my mind also when I read this news in the newspaper. But friends, kindly see, I will try to show the connect, how the connect happened and how the chimpanzees got to be attached by the enforcement directorate officer. Kindly see. This, in PMLA, there is a concept of there being a scheduled offense firstly, and there has to be commission of scheduled offense. And then on the basis of scheduled offense, if some proceeds are generated, then those proceeds, if portrayed as good money, then the offense of money laundering takes place, and proceeds so generated becomes proceeds of crime. And enforcement directorate has been given the power to make attachment of proceeds of crime. So a person, a gentleman, committed some offense by creating some forged documents. The forgery is one of the scheduled offenses. Then he also violated indeed the provisions of Wildlife Protection Act, and thereby he committed another scheduled offense, because Wildlife Protection Act is also one of the scheduled offenses. So he committed the scheduled offenses, and that is how, as a result, he got chimpanzees. So chimpanzees were called as proceeds of crime because of commission of offense these were received by the person. So since these are proceeds of crime, ED has right to attach that. So that is how ED attached these chimpanzees and handed over to the zoo authorities. So looks to be surprising, but many such more examples I will show you, where in the farthest imagination you could not have imagined the role of ED, but ED has attached. Even in the most prevailing cases, which is pertaining to the default made by a borrower towards the loan repayable to the banker. On the one hand, business is collapsing, he is not able to repay. On the other hand, no, ED says you have done forgery, so we'll attach your all assets. So in that scenario, it is essential to understand the rigors of the law, the vigors of the law, the nitty-gritties of the law. Then secondly, friend, okay, let me first of all switch on to this mode. Okay, then recent news, you must have read this in Economic Times. Modi's Benami law has companies running for cover. So when the Benami law was introduced, it was thought that it was hit only those people, those politicians or public servants who were tashing their money in Benami names or sending it abroad, etc., etc. But it was never imagined that it will hit the infrastructure companies, those who are constituting land aggregating companies, buying land through other entities. It was never imagined that it will hit listed companies. It was never imagined it will hit rural people. So that is the introduction, brief introduction to Benami law, that it is hitting all of them. I mean, some cases below the belt. When I use the word below the belt, it means that those cases where even the Benami transactions were done, maybe without any mala fide intention, but the drafting of the law is that if something is Benami, it is Benami. No reasoning, there is no scope of reasoning, no reasonable cause, nothing. Friends, this news which I have opened before you, I read it few months before in Hindustan Times, where it says that CBI ED action may now follow IT default probes. In fact, it is talking about multi-agency scrutiny, and that too based upon the power of higher order data analytics. You must have known the power of data analytics, on the basis of which it is said, widely said, that Donald Trump won his election on the basis of techniques of data analytics. These agencies also, so that coordinated action can be taken by the agencies. So therefore, we have to understand, if the coordinated agency is taken, what kind of effect it will give. And particularly when, if I share with you, there is going to be strong interplay between all these laws. And on the one hand, and on the legal framework is such that there is going to be strong interplay. And the practical scenario prevailing would be that there will be coordinating action by multiple agencies. It may be SFIU, it may be CBI, it may be Enforcement Directorate, Income Department, Benami Prohibition Unit, RBI, that is FEMA, etc., etc., and ROC, etc., etc. So the time has come when we must understand little bit of facets of all of them. Yes. And in most of these investigations, friends, and most of these transactions where some violation has taken place, friends, you will find that most common ingredient found in the violation of laws related to economic offenses will be transactions done as Benami. Why it is so? Yes, very important issue that comes before us, that Mr. Taneja, why are you emphasizing that Benami will acquire the pivotal role? Because if you kindly observe minutely, you are auditor, you are examiner, you are financial certifying agency. So you would have noticed that whatever transactions are done, in case any violation is taking place, that violation becomes possible mostly or generally when the transactions are done in some other names, in pseudo form, etc., in distorted form, some disguised form. That is where the role of Benami law comes into picture. And that is how the Benami law assumes a pivotal role. So wherever any violation will be there, chances are there would be something somewhere Benami. You take the example of bogus share capital. You take many examples. So Benami with pitches into silently, it comes at a silent virus and sits over there. And there is no time limit. So it explodes generally out of the blue. Benami transaction. Though fundamentals have been covered, but for the sake of some new friends who have joined us, it will be atrocity if I skip totally the concept of fundamental. And fundamentals, sir, in any case, is something which every day, whenever we get up for anything, whatever we want to do in life, we must begin with the fundamentals. That is how Japanese work. You know, every meeting they will start, how they will start? They will start with A, B, C, D, then they will go up to Z. So they will devote more time in drawing drawing the designs than in implementing the design. So drawing the designs takes more time than implement. So concept, etc., takes more time. So fundamentals, no harm, because whenever we discuss fundamentals, something new come up. So fundamentally speaking, the concept of Benami law is based on creation of duality. Duality, yes. When we move away from Advait, duality comes into our life, and that is how Benami comes into our life. How that comes into our life, friends? When in the context of Benami law, the distinction is created between the legal ownership and the beneficial ownership. Duality comes into play. Meaning thereby, there is one person who is enjoying the fruits of the property, the beneficial enjoyment of the property, the dominion control of the property, but he has dissected its ownership part in terms of paper, in terms of its title. So in terms of law, the owner is somebody else. If we see through the prism of Transfer Property Act or other applicable laws, so the owner would be, say, Mr. B, and the real owner will be, say, Mr. Beneficial owner, say Mr. A. So A transfers the property to B and pays the consideration also, but he enjoys the beneficial interest. For example, in the chart which you are seeing, for example, seller is being receiving the payment from the beneficial owner. So beneficial owner is making the payment, and the property is being transferred to the benamidar. So two conditions are required to be fulfilled. The beneficial enjoyment is only one condition. My apologies if I was incomplete in my first sentence. Beneficial enjoyment is only one condition. Duality will be complete when the apart from the beneficial enjoyment, the payment of consideration is also done by that person. Under Benami law, both the conditions have to be fulfilled. If only one condition is fulfilled, no Benami. This is what I am talking about, the classical example of Benami, because there are 4 parts, and most of the parts will, most of the transactions will fall in part A, and this is what I'm talking about, part A only for the time being. So this is what is basic fundamental about the Benami law, the concept of Benami law, or the concept of a Benami transaction. In fact, Benami law is much more wider. Concept of a Benami transaction, how it has been envisaged within the framework of PBPT Act as amended with effect on 1/11/2016. What are the factors leading to the origin of Benami law? Very essential to know, because mostly you will find that at one place somewhere these factors somewhere it will something will be some reason will be ascribed, and then when this reason will be ascribed, you will find that in most of the cases the reason will be this only, that in most of the cases you will find that that either there is violation of some land reform laws. Now, what do you mean by land reform laws? Yes, I will tell. In fact, what happens, friends, when the independence was got by our country, immediately thereafter, various states adopted certain laws to bring out the land reforms. Now, land reforms means there were few landowners and many landless laborers. So the ownership of land was concentrated in few hands. So there was a kind of feudal system. So to eradicate this feudal system, what many people did, to eradicate this feudal system, what law did, then it created some laws so that the land could be evenly distributed amongst the masses, the laborers, the land laborers who were not the owners, though who were tilling the land since centuries, or their forefathers were since. So that is how land reform laws were brought out, like ALSRA, like MP Land Reforms Act, like Maharashtra Land Reforms Act, like Rajasthan Land Reforms Act, and like Himachal Pradesh Tenancy Act, in which many people have been roped in, whereby the land could be acquired only by the natives, etc. And few other restrictions were there depending upon the demographic, geographic, social profile of various states. So people were violating these laws by acquiring the land in other names. So that is how the need arose of Benami law. Then tax evasion, of course, which you are all aware of. Then generation of black money. Then fraud on creditors. Evading the creditors by getting rid of one's properties. Then various other corrupt practices, which we will not be discussing today in detail. Then, friends, this is part A. I have already discussed: property transferred or held by benamidar, consideration paid by beneficial owner, and property held for the benefit of the beneficial owner. Then part B, property held in fictitious name. Part B, C, and D, we are overlooking today. But friends, believe me, part B, C, and D are far more dangerous than part A at times, because part A may envisage some conscious application, some conscious execution on the part of some of the persons. But friends, part B, part C, and part D, people are caught unaware. For example, property held in fictitious name. For example, property held in the name of pets, in the name of deity, in the name of goddess, some person who is not existing in the laws of in the eyes of law as a person, not recognized as a person in the eyes of law. So any such property will be immediately forthwith attached under Benami law. There is no rescue measure, no ifs and buts. If owner is not aware about the ownership, denies the particulars about the knowledge of ownership, such properties becomes a property of the government. Very straight and simple. Then if payer of the consideration is not traceable or is fictitious, a person says, yes, I have got this property, I have not paid consideration for that, somebody else has paid consideration for that, I'm not able to tell, or if I tell, he is found to be non-traceable or fictitious, clause D can hit. The first case of the country was hit under clause D when the car moved from Mumbai to Pune. Car was fully stashed with cash. Some Mumbai municipal corporator was carrying the cash. He could not disclose the full particulars. Cash was attached forthwith. So matter was over within a month or so. And then there was a talk of prosecution of that corporator only being Benamidar. That's it. Straight and simple. So, the Benami law works on jet speed. That is one of the finis of this law. And that is how it distinguishes this law from various other laws. Exceptions. If a transaction falls A, B, C, and D, it is Benami, come what may, no reasoning, unless it falls in any of these conditions. If it falls in any of these exceptions, it may be saved, otherwise it is Benami. If property is bought in the name of Karta by the HUF, there is exception. If the person acting in the fiduciary capacity acquires a property in his name on behalf of the person on whose fiduciary capacity is working, for example, director, partner, executor, trustee, acquiring property in the name of individual on behalf of the company or firm of the trust, etc., etc. Director also can keep the company. Provided all these things, then, okay, before that, let me complete. Then spouse or child. In fact, this Benami law is no very fantastic law. It is giving shiverings, tensions, and whatnot to many people in different ways. Somebody is worried if his Benami property is not detected, lest his Benami property is discovered. Somebody is worried, friends, lest his Benami rishta is not detected. So different persons are having different kind of tensions, or different tensions, different feelings give different kind of questions. So from the audience, one question came to me, right, Mr. Taneja, you say property bought in the name of spouse will not be Benami. Yes. So, but the question arises, who's the spouse? I was also amused for once. I looked back into the law and then I found it is clearly mentioned his or her spouse. So property bought in the name of his or her spouse only is given the exemption benefit. So don't be very excited, my dear friend. It is his or her spouse. I have made it quite interesting without writing it fully for you, for just making it lighter. Child. Now, child means what? Because law says any child. Any child means what? No, not all those things which you are thinking about. My issue is child up to what age? Child up to, majority age, that is 18 years or above. So if you see the concept of Indian Succession Act, Indian Income Tax Act, you find the different definitions. If we come back to this, the contextual meaning, I think, because lineal ascendant, descendant is next close. So child means child of any age. Even otherwise, for a parent, I am child of my parent. Even today, they introduce me like that only. Brother and sister, lineal ascendant and descendant. If property held in their name, it will be Benami. Yes. So then why it is an exception? Exception will be only when there is a concept of joint ownership. So unless the property is bought in the joint ownership in these category, it will be Benami. So brother, sister is clearly defined. Lineal ascendant, descendant means parents, mother, father. The descendants means because child is already there. Other descendant means grandchildren. So if property bought in the name of mother for emotional reasons, sister for emotional reasons, it will be Benami. If you continue to show yourself owner, unless you make some joint ownership. Of what ratio? Any ratio. It does not stipulate. So even of 1%, you have to be joint owner. Probably it was stipulated for the purpose of public servants who have under CCS rules required to show the ownership of the assets. Now because of the joint ownership, they will have to compulsorily show these assets. Power of attorney cases. Power of attorney cases are also exempt, provided two conditions are fulfilled. The person giving power of attorney remains the original owner. The contract of power of attorney is registered, and third condition will be three conditions. That means third condition will be the stamp duty applicable thereon is paid. Yes, you're right. These three conditions are very difficult to fulfill, and that is how power of attorney cases are under danger zone unless some suitable amendments are brought out by the government. That is how I say when property of Shah Rukh Khan was attached way back in 2017, not that Mannat wala Bangalore. This is Alibag property when it was attached. My interview was taken on Economic Times by the correspondent, Mr. Sugato Ghosh. And he said, sir, how would you summarize this law? I said, I will summarize this law by saying this is an unguided missile, unwittingly created, loaded with nuclear arsenal. So it was probably said on the lighter side, but next fine morning, I found that in Economic Times, it has been reported, published as it is with my name, with my views. So many, there was hue and cry on this remarks, but now after 2-3 years, we are finding that yes, it has proved to be true. Anyways, friends, so this other condition is there that consideration should be paid out of known sources. Now, what do we mean by known sources? In fundamentals, we could not cover. Now, today we cover what do we mean by the term known sources. Then these are the authorities. The enforcement work is with initiating officer. Approving authorities does the work of approving authority akin to section 151 Income Tax Act. Adjudicating authority, after the work of initiating officer is over, he passes the provisional attachment order and the reference, then the income tax department work is over. Income tax department, one BPU, Benami Prohibition Unit, has been carved out after the income tax department, which comprises of initiating officer and approving authority, and of course few other officers. Then they primarily do the work of enforcement, pass the basic orders, that is order under section 24(3), etc., and order under section 24(5). Thereafter, their work is over. Then it comes to adjudicating authority. Adjudicating authority is pan-India jurisdiction is at Delhi, common with PMLA adjudicating authority. And once the adjudicating authority decides the matter within 1 year, then the matter goes to appellate tribunal. Appellate tribunal does not have any time limit. It is the appellate tribunal, not the income tax appellate tribunal. The appellate tribunal means the tribunal which was constituted under SAFEMA, also given the function to discharge under COFEPISA, NDPS, PMLA, and now Benami, common for all. And administrator who will be holding the property, who will be acquiring the property, who will, after the attachment, who will be confiscating the property and then managing it, and then thereafter selling it and auctioning it as per the directions of the government. Then the way this act has been structured is like that various authorities have been created. The enforcement officer, that is initiating officer, has been empowered to do the function on pull mode and push mode basis. Now, pull mode means he can seek information from any of the authorities which I mentioned, of state government or central government. Push mode means if these authorities are made duty bound to furnish the information if they come to notice of any Benami transaction. So IOs are being, served on platter the informations. Then meaning of the expression known sources. Now here we begin the various complex issues which we face. So friends, this known sources is being used for the first time. Yesterday, Dasa was telling yes, in one other statute it has been used, that is Prevention of Corruption Act. So apart from PC Act, PMLA does not use, income tax does not use. So this is very specific expression which has been used. They have not used the words disclosed or declared. So that means it has nothing to take with declared or disclosed to the income tax department. That means it has got nothing to do with payment of tax. So we will use it in generic sense, and limited meaning we can also borrow from PC Act also, Prevention of Corruption Act. So if you borrow the meaning from there, it means something which can be described, which you can tell about from which it has come. So suppose a person says, I have paid this money to acquire the property in the name of my mother. So then he will, if he has to tell where from he has paid, from which bank account, by way of check or draft, and in the bank account from which source, salary, business, etc. This much minimum he should tell. So then we may say, in my considered opinion, it may be said to be out of known sources. Then fiduciary capacity. Now this is another controversial issue which is arising, and it is also one of the main oxygen cylinder we have, the ray of hope, the lamp of light. If the property is purchased under the terms of fiduciary capacity, then it can be said to be not Benami. But the question arises, what kind of fiduciary capacity? So fiduciary capacities which were defined there in the Act, 4 or 5 categories are there, or there could be other categories also of the fiduciary capacity which were not mentioned over there. Very good question, in fact, this would be. If you minutely see, the definition is inclusive. So since the definition is inclusive, there could be other fiduciary capacities also, apart from the capacities which are mentioned there. So when we talk about fiduciary capacities mentioned elsewhere, I mean, not mentioned here, but which could still be fiduciary capacity, I would say that fiduciary capacity which are recognized under the law as fiduciary capacity, not which we create as fiduciary capacity. Now, what is the distinction between the two? Fiduciary capacities created by the law would be, for example, I will give you an example. Though the category is not mentioned here, but still it can fall in fiduciary capacity. A holding company is required to hold, supposed to hold 100% shares of its wholly owned subsidiary company. But since there is a requirement of there being at least 2 shareholders, so what it does is it holds 99 shares and 1 share is held by the nominee of the holding company on behalf of the holding company. So if this clause is not there, it will be Benami transaction because payment is made by the holding company. So because of this fiduciary capacity relationship, and this clause will save it. Except this, there is going to be problem. So fiduciary capacity recognized by the law as fiduciary capacity. Suppose I give property to my friend, that my dear friend, look, this is a property I have. You keep this property with you in fiduciary capacity. And can I say that I have given the property to one of my friends in fiduciary capacity, so I must get the benefit of exception? Here my answer would be no, because we are trying to create fiduciary capacity. Fiduciary capacity should be which is recognized by the law as fiduciary capacity, or the circumstances are such that law accepts them to be fiduciary capacity. For example, in the similar friend wala example, if I take, I give this assignment to one of my, say, property agents, that you buy property for me somewhere in posh areas in Delhi. And when the time of registration came, he selected one property, paid consideration. So when the time of registration came, I was traveling abroad. So he says, Mr. Taneja, please come back soon. I have to get the registration done, or this deal will slip out of my hand, and earnest money will also be forfeited. I say, okay, I can't come back before 3 months. There are civil circumstances, lockdown is there, etc., whatever may be the reasons, such reasons, compelling reasons. So I send him a mail, you buy the property in your name for the time being. When the moment I come back, you transfer it back into my name. I think if plausible, if good arguments are made, the law may recognize it as fiduciary capacity, the competent court of law. Now, the significance of fiduciary capacity, I will put before you from this angle also, that if you remember, during my sessions on fundamentals of Benami law, I had shared one important aspect, that Benami transactions were allowed by the law earlier, not only by this government, by the earlier government when there was rule of British rulers. So when the Indian Trust Act was enacted in 1882, more than 125-30 years back, more than, rather I would say more than 140 years back. Even at that time, the section 81, 82 and 94 of Indian Trust Act said, yes, Benami transaction can be done. I mean, they said that if a person wants to transfer the property without transferring the full beneficial rights, will protect their rights, meaning thereby Benami transactions can be done. Similarly, section 281A of Indian Income Tax Act also allowed the same thing. But when 1988 Act of Benami law came into picture, all these sections were repealed. So endorsement from the legislature to do Benami transactions were no more allowable. But surprisingly, section 88 of Indian Trust Act was retained. That was not repealed, which talks about fiduciary capacity. So that means the law still recognizes the concept and effect and influence of fiduciary capacity. Therefore, friends, I am saying that this can be seen a very, very good oxygen cylinder in the genuine deserving cases. Fiduciary capacity, whether it should be explicit or it could be implicit also. Yes, it could be implicit, as I shared with you the example of holding and the nominee relationship. There, the fiduciary capacity was implicit, which was also approved by the Honorable Supreme Court in the judgment of Marcel Martin versus Imprinter, 21 taxman.com 7. Then, friends, now about interplay. Benami law and its interplay with other laws. One of the most striking issue which is bothering many of us, and that is how I have structured my sessions, where I'm trying to cover up not only Benami law, but after a while, I would be covering up, maybe tomorrow my session is there on Prevention of Money Laundering Act, where I may be touching some little bit of Black Money Act also. And of course, this SFIO is staring our head. And you may be taking Companies Act lightly so far, but after 2013, friends, believe me, there are a lot of things which make it quite draconian. I should not be maybe using the word draconian, but quite responsible. We have to be very, very ethical now. That is how I say that the time has come now for we professionals to align and realign ourselves. Now, when we talk about align and realign, the meaning is that we must know how to conduct ourselves at arm's length principle. So unless we learn dealing with our clients at arm's length principle, we might be dragged into trouble. And if you don't believe me, please do read section 53, 54 of PBPT Act, which talks about prosecution of not only benamidar and beneficial owner, but also of the persons who have abetted in benami transactions. तो एक जगह सर्च चल रही थी साहब, सर्च में लाला जी से पूछा गया कि लाला जी आपने बेनामी ट्रांजैक्शन क्यों किया? सर मेरे सीए साहब ने कही थी. So it may look to be quite easy that you will be protecting yourself, taking shelter of provisions of section 91, 92, 101, 102 and 106 of Indian Evidence Act, but the burden immediately shifts back on your shoulder the moment any such statement is given. So it gives a person an embarrassing situation. Anyways, coming back to this. So Benami law, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल कंपनीज एक्ट, क्या इनका कंपनीज एक्ट के साथ क्या एक समन्वय, एक इंटरप्ले क्या हो सकता है? लेट्स अंडरस्टैंड द इंटरप्ले बिटवीन द टू. इफ यू रिमेंबर अंडर कंपनीज एक्ट, नाउ you see there is a concept of significant beneficial owner, so whereby there is one shareholder and there may be the real owner behind it. So the real owner is someone else and the registered shareholder is someone else. So there is now requirement under the Companies Act under section 90 or 290 that a person is required under band 1 and band 2 the information about that how who is the actual owner. So there could be certain situations where the moment the information of beneficial owner is given, the Benami law can also rope in that same very situation as a Benami transaction. That what can be that situation? That situation can be, suppose the SBO is getting triggered under the clause where it is being said that if a person is acting through someone else, so X is the registered holder because Z is acting through X. So then X becomes the benamidar and Z becomes the beneficial owner. So while giving any such information, please be careful that only real facts be given. Do not give it lightly, casually, incorrectly. Otherwise, it may be a phishing net. Then SEBI takeover. Person acting in concert, PAC, is nothing but a bedrock for Benami law. Then, sir, anti-money laundering law. Wherever money laundering is done, I shared briefly about the money laundering. Wherever money laundering is done, the chances are the transactions are done in pseudonyms. So if the transactions are done in pseudonyms, that means there are chances of involvement of some other names, some Benami transactions. Then we come to Income Tax Act, for which you might be waiting. So I will take a few examples one by one. The first fundamental question which arises while we talk about interplay vis-a-vis Income Tax Act, rather for any other law, that the situation is going to be cumulative or mutually exclusive. Now, cumulative means that the action will be done on this law wherever the primary offense or the violation takes place, and Benami also, and if there is third law, third also, or action under one will preclude or preempt or mutually exclude the action on the other. Friends, in fact, I will put before you two sections of PBPT Act and then few practical examples, and then you can visualize yourself how the situations are going to happen now. Section 60 and 67 of PBPT Act. Section 60 says that the provisions of this act are in addition to the provisions of any other act. And section 67 says, section 60 says, I will repeat, provisions of this act are in addition to the provisions of this act, not in subrogation of any other act. So in addition to any other act, not in subrogation of any other act. So these are additional measures, number one. 67 says, in case there is a contradiction between the provisions of this act and provisions of any other act, then the provisions of this act shall have supersession effect over the other acts. Though this is a fashion nowadays, and every act states like that, but this is the position of law. Now coming back to this situation, let me give you a practical example, because you must be aspiring or craving to hear about interplay vis-a-vis 68, 69A, etc. So let me share with you one practical incident which has taken place. One gentleman whose name is R, he is major shareholder with his family in the company R Limited, and director also. And during the course of search, he made surrender of rupees, say 25 crore rupees. Now the surrendered amount included rupees 10 crore on account of bogus share capital, which he received from one B Limited, who gave share capital to R Limited, and R Limited issued share certificates to B Limited. So he paid tax on the rupees 25 crores to bring the matter to an end. But unfortunately, matter did not come to an end, because after a few days, the notice comes from the BPU under section 19 firstly, that sir, we need to record your statement. So the gentleman, the big businessman of the city, goes for recording of the statement. And during the course of the statement, the IO asks the first question, Mr. R, you made a surrender. He raises his collar up. Yes, sir, I made the surrender, and I also offered the same to tax, and I paid tax also. All right, very good. So one of the items to disclose is bogus capital, share capital from B Limited. Yes, sir, I have paid tax on that also. All right. So that means you received check from B Limited in the name of R. Yes, sir. So that means before receiving the check, you gave cash to B Limited. Now his silence may not convert it into no. So if the answer is yes, so that means R gave cash to B Limited. B Limited in turn issued check to R Limited. R Limited in turn issued share certificates to B Limited. B Limited is holding the shares. Now the IO says the entire transaction is Benami. I will be attaching these shares of rupees 10 crores issued to B Limited, B being Benamidar, R being beneficial owner. And I will be also attaching rupees 10 crore lying in the bank account of R, or the property which R has purchased from these rupees 10 crores, being the part of Benami transactions, being the part of proceeds of Benami transactions. So friends, now here arises very, very important proposition, whether the IO's action is correct. And if it is not, how will you contradict the accusation as per law? Now, first thing first. Firstly, his contention is that B is the Benamidar of the share certificates. Okay, rather, I would say this manner, whether all these things can be attached. So what is the Benami property here? If at all any Benami transaction has taken place, what is the Benami property? Who is Benamidar? Who is beneficial owner? And if whether there is any person who can be prosecuted as a person abating also. I mean, that is also we must know. So friends, here the situation is very grave. The IO's reasoning is that look, B is Benamidar because B is holding the shares in Benami capacity. Real owner is R. Because if R is given some, why will allow the control to be exercised as B? So the burden will be shifted upon the shoulders of R to prove that he is exercising the real control. Minutes book will have to be seen, etc., etc. Then then the share certificates become the Benami property. So B becomes Benamidar, R becomes beneficial owner, and share certificates become the Benami property. But the next question that arises is that whether the 10 crore rupees can also be attached by way of proceeds. There, I think, absolutely, apparently, the action of IO would be beyond law on the face of it. Because the share properties, if the share property shares are still there. It has not been sold by the beneficial owner or by the Benamidar. The question of consideration will not arise. Question of sale proceeds will not arise. Number one. Number two, in any case, R Limited has acquired this rupees 10 crores as an independent company, for whom it was just amount of share capital. Whosoever is the real owner, R is not concerned. R could be real owner. R Limited is not concerned, sorry. R could be the owner or B Limited could be the owner. R Limited is not concerned. So for R Limited, it is sum of rupees validly received, sum of rupees 10 crores on account of share capital for which in lieu of which it has issued share certificates. And even otherwise, this is a separate legal juristic person. It acquires a property from this 10 crores, retains with him this 10 crores, retains with R Limited this rupees 10 crore property. That is beyond the preview of Benami transaction. That is my considered understanding. One school of thought also says that share certificates being just paper property, just being nothing, since it is property not in existence, just on paper, it cannot be subject matter of Benami transaction either. So there will be nothing which can be Benami transaction. Law is evolving. Let's see what happens. There is a gray area. This is a dangerous zone. So just be careful. Let's talk about law like section 56(2)(10). Now section 56(2)(10) talks about gift. If A gives gift to B, and if gift tax officer makes assessment in the hands of B for want of lower valuation, etc., So then Benami officer cannot come into play and say, no, this is not genuine transaction, because a factual stand has already been taken by a competent authority. So heavy burden will be there on the Benami law officer, and such contradiction action may not be allowed by the courts. And vice versa will also be true. If Benami law officer treats this transaction between A and B as non-genuine and treats it as Benami transaction and treats A as beneficial owner and B as Benamidar, then income tax officer cannot come into play and cannot now make addition in the hands of B also for lower valuation of gift. So here the situation, in my considered opinion, will be mutually exclusive. Now, what about GAR? Now, very, very interesting situation in GAR. In GAR, this is how I describe. If GAR is invoked to deny the treaty benefit, say in this case, AB Mauritius case, you can refer at Authority of Advance ruling, denied the treaty benefit to a Mauritian company on the ground that it was just acting on behest of the US company. It was just a paper company. US company was, the parent company was the real beneficial owner. So it is a Benami transaction kind of thing. Then the Benami law officer can swing into action. Though it is an international transaction, friends, though Black Money Act is applicable on the assets located in India, admittedly the position is true, but here the asset located in India, being the shares held by Mauritius company and Indian company, being asset located in India, being an Indian asset, can be attached as per law if it is Benami asset. So if shares are attached, it will be Benami asset, and then M will be Benamidar, and U company, that is US company, will be beneficial owner. This kind of adventure or misadventure, whatever you may call, may also take place. So beware of that situation also. Then this I already covered. Burden of proof. Very, very important concept, my dear friends. Please remember that there is nothing common between income tax law and Benami law. Though only one thing is common, and that is the only thing common according to my little understanding, that law enforcement agency is common. Though it's not strictly common, but still it is within the hands of income tax department. Law enforcement under Benami law is done by BPU of the income tax department, which is part of investigation wing of income tax department, and income tax law is enforced by investigation wing of department and investment wing, research wing, etc., etc., so forth. So here the situation is that nothing is common. Why I am saying? Because the basic thread and the fabric on which Benami law has been woven and income tax law is woven is totally different. And the distinguishing feature is concept of burden of proof. The obligation to prove a particular aspect, a particular fact, totally different. Under Income Tax Act, whosoever is making a claim, that is the assessee, has to prove that claim is legible. Under Benami law, this situation arose quite vociferously. And most of the initiating officers started issuing notice in such a fashion as if the burden is upon the noticee to prove that whether it is a Benami property or not. But friends, this matter reached before the tribunal, and again the IO raised, the standing counsel on behalf of the IO raised the same thing, that PBPT Act has come, so burden is upon the notices. In fact, the background, I will take you the little judicial background in this regard, that before this PBPT Act came into picture, the civil disputes were already happening with regard to the dispute about the title and ownership of the transactions, Benami transactions, that who is a real owner, etc. So during civil disputes, matter reached up to the Supreme Court level also. And Supreme Court held that the burden to prove Benami will be upon the person who is alleging them to be Benami. And this situation was recently followed by two Supreme Court judgments by Honorable Justice M.B. Shah in the case of P. Leelavati and Mangathai Ammal. One judgment is from Bangalore High Court, which reached to Supreme Court, and another is from Andhra Pradesh High Court, which reached to Supreme Court. And in both the judgments, it was said that the burden of proof is on the person who asserts the transaction is Benami. So who is alleging? It's a fundamental concept. The burden to prove an allegation is upon the person who is alleging a transaction to be Benami. So here also Supreme Court said burden will be upon the person who is alleging it to be Benami. So when we quoted this judgment before the tribunal, the reply came from the IO side that, look, these were rendered in context of civil law. Now PBPT Act has come into picture. Since PBPT Act has come into picture, so therefore now burden should be on noticee. But tribunal did not accept the argument. Tribunal said the judgments given by the Supreme Court hold water in PBPT Act also. this is a fundamental jurisprudence that the burden to prove should be on the person who is alleging, unless law specifically shifts that burden. So the burden is upon the IO, and beyond, it will be beyond parameters also to shift the burden under the law also, because it will be very difficult to prove for anybody and chaos will take place. So rightly so, Supreme Court has said the burden will be upon the person who is alleging. Under the context of PBT also, the burden will be upon the initiating officer to prove. And this judgment came when I argued. I got the privilege to argue it before the appellate tribunal, which was first appeal of the country before the appellate tribunal, and the judgment is rendered in the name of Srimati Pamela Bhardwaj and Ramnik Singh Kochar versus initiating officer. This judgment is available on the website of the PMLA Benami Law Tribunal also. Very good judgment, very detailed reasoning has been given by the appellate tribunal. So this controversy has been reduced to this extent. Then what are the consequences of Benami transaction, friends? Firstly, a consequence of attachment and confiscation of Benami property or proceeds thereof. So attachment, how this law becomes very stinging law is that the moment 24(1) notice is issued, that is a show cause by the IO, he has also the power to make provisional attachment under section 24(3). And that is how it comes as a bolt from the blue. And I mean, it becomes very harsh law that the proceedings begin with the attachment order, as if the government is saying the property is the property of the government. Now you talk about prosecution and fine, etc. So attachment can be done now, though there are many conditions for attachment under section 24(3). Those conditions are not being fulfilled. There are around 3 conditions. Approval is to be taken, possession has to be seen in whose case it is, and there should be likelihood of alienation. But none of the condition is being fulfilled, and in a very casual manner in most of the cases attachment is being done, which is illegal in my respectful view. But the confiscation will not take place unless the matter is decided by the appellate tribunal. That is where it is lesser harsh than the PMLA. Under PMLA, the moment order is passed by the enjoining authority, it becomes subject matter of taking over of possession by the AD authority. Here, no possession, no confiscation till the matter is decided by the appellate tribunal. Then the second consequence is prosecution and rigorous imprisonment. Fine 25%, then imprisonment up to 7 years. And also not only of Benamidar and beneficial owner, any person who is held guilty of offense of Benami transaction, 3 persons are prescribed: Benamidar, beneficial owner, and a person who takes part in abatement. Then prosecution for false information. Under section 54, if a person does not give in proper information, any authority does not give proper information, these persons, maybe private citizen or an authority, can be held up for false information from 6 months to 5 years. And fine up to 20%. Now 54A has been also added, wherein there is some more penalty has been prescribed if you do not attend the notice of the IO properly. Then friends, this I have already discussed. That requisite conditions for making attachment are these 3, which are not being fulfilled. Then friends, effect of attachment. Attachment का क्या effect होगा? Whether all rights with respect to enjoyment of the property come to an end, or only right to transfer the property becomes restricted. Actually, if you see the definition of attachment, attachment means the prohibition of transfer, conversion, disposition, or movement of property by an order issued under this act. If you see section 57, here also only transfer is barred. So meaning that by combined reading of these provisions suggests that only restrictions is on transfer, not on enjoyment, not on usage. So a person can do anything which is not contaminating the rights in the ownership, which is not diluting the rights in the ownership, etc. Suppose the shares are attached, what will happen? Whether there is a restriction on right of voting, right to participate in shareholders meeting, right to receive dividend, right to pledge shares, right to sell transfer shares. So according to me, only this last two from the bottom, only they are violating the ownership rights. Other 3 are only right to the usage. So other 3, according to me, are allowed. On balance 2, only last 2 can be said to be restricted. And that is what was held by the Supreme Court in the case of Balkishan Gupta and others versus Swadeshi Politics. Attachment of land and building. Kindly read this slide. So according to me, right to mortgage, right to subdivision of plots, right to entering into development agreement, right to sell transfer, only they may be under attack, not the other rights, because other rights are right to of usage, enjoying the fruits. till only attachment is done. After confiscation, of course, everybody, the whosoever property is confiscated loses the right from the property. Then confiscation, I have already discussed that confiscation will take place only after the order is passed by the appellate tribunal. Now, what about the protection to bona fide purchaser? Very, very important question. Friends, you might be wondering that if a person who has acquired the property, if it is found to be Benami, what will happen about that? And very, I would say, serious situation has been created under the law. Law clearly says if the property has been purchased after the issuance of notice under section 24(1), the property is Benami property. So property is straight away Benami and it is liable to be attached. It is liable to be attached. The moment notice is issued, after that property is purchased. But suppose the property is purchased and thereafter notice is issued on the seller under section 24(1), then the law gives protection to the bona fide purchaser under section 27, provided these two conditions are fulfilled. That property is purchased for adequate consideration prior to issuance of notice under section 24(1), as I already said, and purchaser had no knowledge of Benami transaction. Very easy situation as it appears, but the issue arose, it is whose burden to prove that these conditions are fulfilled or not. Then I got again an opportunity to argue before the appellate tribunal that, sir, how can I prove I had no knowledge? Because how can I prove something negatively? So IO said, no, the burden is upon them. I have no duty. So then Honorable Tribunal in two judgments gave very detailed reasoning, as said the burden will be again on the IO to prove that these two conditions are not fulfilled. The names of the judgments are Vargo Township first judgment from Jaipur, and other judgment is in the name of Kavita Infrastructure from Pune. So worth reading judgments available on the site of the PMLA tribunal, this PMLA Benami Law Tribunal. Very important slide before you, and very, very cardinal issue which we must remember while making representation before the Benami law officers. Whether initiating officer can disregard provisions of section 91, 92, 101, 102 and 106 of the Indian Evidence Act on the ground that provisions of PBPT Act has got overriding effect. So kindly see this Indian Evidence Act is offspring of Constitution of India, and Benami Act is also offspring of Constitution of India. So unless there is a specific contradiction or something which is overriding the effect of Indian Evidence Act, all the offsprings who happens to be sibling between themselves will have their respective effect. So nothing is there in PBT Act which is erasing or overriding the effect of any of these provisions. Since there is nothing as such, so therefore, friends, in my respectful view, all the proceedings under PBPT Act has to be decided keeping in view the provisions of Indian Evidence Act, CPC, etc. Or Limitation Act, General Clauses Act, and all other such laws which are applicable. Whether initiating officer has power of arrest. So stop at 12:15. I intend to stop precisely at 12:15 and 5-10 minutes more, unless you would like me to drag on. Otherwise, what I am suggesting is that we can have more time on question answer session also. Okay, let me cover up how much I can cover, right? Whatever issues I can cover quickly. If you want me to slow down, I can slow down. Power of arrest. Whether initiating officer has power of arrest. Whether initiating officer has power of survey, search and seizure. Friends, that is how it makes this law different, less harsh or more harsh from income tax or as compared to its other siblings like PMLA, etc. It is lesser harsh from PMLA in the sense that Enforcement Directorate, who is enforcement agency for the PMLA, has power of arrest. BPU does not have power of arrest. Income tax officers does not have power of arrest. Power of survey, search and seizure. ED has power of survey, search and seizure. Income tax department has power of search and seizure. BPU, no, it does not have. But under section 19, it has power to conduct discovery and inspection, inquiries, summoning, etc. But the BPU smartly uses the investigation wing of the income tax department, whose part it is, as its hands and ears and eyes, etc. Therefore, it uses the powers of survey, search and seizure in a pseudo manner in Benami capacity by using this power through investigation wing, etc. I have seen it happening at a number of occasions. Writ jurisdiction. whether it can be exercised, whether it should be exercised, when it can be exercised. Writ jurisdiction granted upon Section 227, Article 227 of our Constitution is a special extraordinary power conferred by the Constitution upon our jurisdictional high courts. It is an extraordinary power, so it is used in extraordinary circumstances. So meaning thereby, there should be such circumstances which should compel the indulgence of the high courts. For example, the palpable injustice has been done. For example, the action is such that even if the allegations are treated as correct, such action cannot be taken by the authority. So that is only where the writ jurisdiction can be invoked, or where there is no alternative remedy and action is very harsh. But under Benami law, alternative remedies are there, number one. So therefore, unless these other conditions are fulfilled, I don't think High Court will be pitching in, showing indulgence. Rather, the High Court may make some remarks which may disturb. So it is better if you are given, say, 3 bullets to be used. Why are you wasting 2 bullets and using the final bullet? I mean, this is for you to think practically. So only in extremely deserving cases, this writ jurisdiction should be exercised. Then this DHFL Manpreet judgment, this also came from the tribunal. In this whole concept, how the concept of beneficial owner should be identified. Only one thing I would say for this judgment, in this judgment, it was held by the Honorable Appellate Tribunal. Judgment is available on the site. It was published in Economic Times also. That merely because finance is provided by the DHFL, it cannot be said to be beneficial owner. And it was said by Supreme Court also in P. Lilavati. So finance as a loan, no, it will not make it beneficial owner. Finance is provided and it is enjoying the right of the beneficial owner also, only then it will make him beneficial owner, the other person has benamidar. Then this question is also being raised, sir, whether international transaction can be roped in, whether non-residents can be roped in under Benami law. So this question was raised from Honorable Finance Minister also. Finance Minister said, no, for international assets located abroad, we have Black Money Act. But it does not mean the assets located in India, if any transaction involves the involvement of non-resident, will not make it Benami. For example, a non-resident buying land in India, who cannot buy land being non-resident, buys through his friend, friends become Benamidar. In some cases, it has come to me, I am representing those cases. The friend here in India has been treated as Benamidar because of the peculiar facts brought out on a record, and the non-resident friend as beneficial owner. Land has been attached, Indian friend treated as Benamidar, and the prosecution of beneficial owner may take place the moment he puts his feet on the pious land of our country. Money laundering. Friends, very briefly, I have explained. Only one thing I will say, that 3 stages are required in money laundering. Stage 1, commission of schedule. I think tomorrow I am going to have session on money laundering, so I can skip this session for today. We can concentrate more on today's. So friends, thank you very much. It is really your that has been wonderful participation. Now, as I said, quite often I say this thing, that the Benami law is not only talking about how to read law. With the help of this law, I am getting the message how to understand the life and how to live the life, friends. In fact, if you kindly see, the Benami law gives us a message how to align and realign yourself in all capacities, as citizen of the country, as a human being, as a professional, etc. So it tells us whatever you think from inside, you have to show it outside same way. Whatever you are from inside, you should portray yourself from outside. Whatever you think yours, you only think, whatever is yours, you think it only to be yours and tell others it is yours. Whatever is not yours, neither think it to be yours, nor tell it to be others to be yours. So in other words, get rid of Benami life and live real life. Thank you very much. With this, I think we have reached 12:15 or so. We have 1 or 2 minutes more rather. So I was saying that ये जो टाइम जो गुजर रहा है, इस टाइम में हमारे सामने एक बहुत बड़ी समस्या है कि पता नहीं हम इस टाइम में अपने आप को, जब ये टाइम खत्म होगा, टाइम चेंज होगा, तो हम पहले से बेहतर होंगे या कुछ वर्स सिचुएशन की तरफ जाएंगे. तो मैंने एक छोटा सा पैरामीटर बनाया, बड़ा बेसिक सा है, शायद आपको अच्छा लगे कि अपने आप को टेस्ट करने का कि हम ठीक जा रहे हैं, गलत जा रहे हैं. पहली बात तो ये कि क्या हम उतनी स्लीप ले रहे हैं जितनी हमें चाहिए, ऑप्टिमम जो होनी चाहिए, से 6 to 8 years जो प्रेस्क्राइब है, या उससे ज्यादा या कम ले रहे हैं. कम ले रहे हैं तो स्ट्रेस में है, ज्यादा ले रहे हैं तो शायद लाउजी और लेथार्जी हो गए. और क्या जो हमारी नेचर ने इवैक्यूएशन की प्रोसेस दी है स्टमक क्लियर करने की, क्या हम वो स्टमक क्लियर कर पा रहे हैं? से इन 3 मिनट्स स्टमक शुड बी क्लियर, और ऐसा नहीं हो रहा है तो कुछ गड़बड़ कर रहे हैं। तो पहली चीज के लिए कि यानी कि हमारी नींद पूरी होनी चाहिए, तो वो जब भी पॉसिबल है कि हमारा जो थॉट मैनेजमेंट है वो ठीक चल रहा है, यानी कि कांस्टेंट लर्निंग हो रही है। अगर आज मेरे विचार 95% सेम है जो मेरे कल थे, तो दैट मींस सम फ्रेशनेस इज रिक्वायर्ड, अदरवाइज दे विल स्टार्ट गेटिंग रॉटन, एंड इवैक्यूएशन प्रोसेस थॉट्स में से नहीं हो रही है। सेकंड के लिए मेरा फूड, आई हैव टू फोकस ऑन दैट। जस्ट मेरे को वो खाना है जो मेरे को इसमें मदद करे। तो ऑफ कोर्स अदर थिंग्स आर देयर, एंड इन थॉट प्रोसेस दिस लर्निंग व्हिच यू आर बिगिनिंग, this will definitely help me freshen up my thoughts every day. I'm not a very learned in these subjects. I just shared my experience. That is how I am myself keeping myself trying to alive, being interconnected with all of you. I really get abundance of energy from when I interact with my friends, with my professional brothers and sisters like you. Thank you very much, my brothers and sisters, for your keen participation and hearing me so patiently. Thank you. Now we can
very much. Thank you very much, Ashwini sir. For your health tips also at the end. After hearing Benami law in details, we have also learned some health tips from you. Definitely, you have covered Section 68 interplay with Income Tax Act. We need to also have questions whether the share capital, as you rightly said, is a dicey issue. The share certificates are the Benami property. The onus of proof, the burden of proof, which you also said, it is still on IO, although
Anup
IO is
bhaiya,
not
Anup
accepting
bhaiya,
IO. They are
if you have
still
got two
saying
devices,
the burden of proof is on the BTC. They need to prove that the Benami property is in their name. They are saying that we don't have the burden of proof.
अनूप जी, आपका 2 डिवाइस चल रहा है एक साथ में। एक डिवाइस को बंद कर दीजिए, दोनों का वॉइस इको हो रहा है। एक डिवाइस बंद करके देन यू कैन स्पीक, और वॉइस इज इकोइंग।
होना तो नहीं चाहिए ऐसा। एनीवेज, अभी भी
अब ठीक है,
अभी ठीक है।
So you have also explained the burden of proof. Again, the Indian Evidence Act, the interplay of Indian Evidence Act with Benami. Since you only clarified the Indian Evidence Act, since it is an offshoot of Constitution, it still applies, and Benami BTP Act does not override Indian Evidence Act. This again is being a very dicey issue. The IOs are not accepting this particular proposition as of now. The Indian Evidence Act, they are saying that Benami laws overrides all other acts in the land. Definitely you took a lot of dicey issues, and you have taken a roadmap of this survey and search. Yes, you also explained the survey and search as per BTP Act, they are not the domain of IO, the BTU units, but still the camouflages are being happening. You know better than us, the camouflages are happening.